Welcome. This is Dr. David D. Schein to our segment that we call Just the Facts for Saving America. We've got a great guest today. Brian Gardner is the award-winning journalist and an author. He's also an accomplished musician and artist. He's performed at over 300 retirement homes and designed his own Christmas card for 54 years in a row.
Yep.
He's also achieved the top status in Toastmasters. And as you can see from his background, he has started a new Facebook group. It's titled We Have the Power. Welcome, Brian Gardner.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. We Have the Power is also a new podcast on prconnectionsradio.com. People can find it there.
Excellent. Super. Well, let's get right into it. Tell our audience about your book, Plan for America in the World.
Let me tell you, I had gotten myself sorted out, as we do at various times in our lives. And I've always been a person, my dad was a scout leader for 50 years. I've always been a person that wanted to try to make sure my life made a difference, a positive difference in this world. So at one point I got myself sorted out really well. And I thought, geez, I might want to go into politics because I could, bring the ideas I have. And I realized I would be like one drop of colored paint in 40,000 gallons of white paint. I would go in looking good. Hey, that's a cool color. And then you go, wait a minute, where is he? And I realized that a person by themselves cannot make a difference the way Washington has been contrived, with it costing $50 million to be a US Senator. So I decided to write a book, which I did, Plan for America and the World. Now, every once in a while, a glitch happens in printing, and I have some copies that have no page numbers, but it does have a contents page. And I'm making those books available free to anyone. And I'm not doing that because, I'm going to send you ads for a vacuum cleaner or something. I really believe in this book. I want to get it out there because I think I have some solutions to some of our big problems, but that's how the book started. And let me tell you, I have never written a book like this before. I sat down, decided what issues I wanted to cover, the order of the chapters, and it was such an amazing process to go through. And so that's
how it started. Some of the issues that you address in the book.
Yes. One of them, the starting is, I always like to give people who feel like they can't make a difference a way to make a difference. And I start off the book by saying our politicians need a name change, and they should not be called just politicians or just senators or just congressmen and women. They should be called public servant US Senator, to remind them of who they're supposed to be working for. Because Amen. What happens, they get to Washington and it costs them $50 million to get reelected. We come to their office, they say, it's great to see my constituents come by my office. And when you leave, when you said, don't put that bridge in or put that bridge in or whatever, they get on the red phone, say, how should I vote on that? And I contend to your viewers that we are back once again in a situation with taxation without real representation. That's why the book starts out with something every person can do. Next time you write, email, call, text your elected official, say, oh yes, public servant Senator Jones, I just wanted to let you know. Wait, what was that name you put on me? Well, you're a public servant, aren't you? Now, here's the litmus test. If they react badly to it, don't reelect them. If they go, yes, well, I am a public servant. Sure, what can I help you with? Yeah, it might be a good person to reelect. And then I go into the Federal Reserve and the abuse of psychiatric drugs in our school system. And I'm a partner with Citizens Commission on Human Rights, cchr.org, which has tremendous free information to warn parents about the side effects of these drugs, just because a kid can't sit still in the classroom because he's bored, And then I'm also partnered with Truth About Drugs, and they have these free booklets on marijuana, on alcohol, on inhalants, everything. And you can go to truthaboutdrugs.org, and they will send you a selection of these booklets. Now, we know how young people are. Oh, don't talk to me. You're just trying to tell me what to do. These booklets don't do that. They say, here's what marijuana will do. Here's what inhalants will do. And the kids hearing this, who are very smart, go, that's what inhalants will do if I want to get a good job or have a healthy kid? Forget it. I'm not using inhalants, because my mantra for my show, and we have the power, is educate, motivate, activate, need for change, demand for improvement, and then we will see results.
That sounds like a great book, and hopefully our viewers and our audience will check it out. Hey, what is advanced technology research, and how does it impact the climate change discussion? And of course, it's very timely given the big climate change summit that they're having over in, I think it's Scotland right now.
It is. Well, here's the thing. In my book, I have a chapter on the falsity of global warming, and I have produced a report, the first report from Advanced Technology Research. It's titled Global Warming is a False Threat Based on Faulty Science. Advanced Technology Research, ATR, does not accept any funding whatsoever. So basically, our reports are based on truth, because I don't care if it's global warming or global cooling. What I am concerned about is vested interests manipulating the information we get for their own benefit. What we need is a new report based on facts issued to the world's populations. To date, no such report has ever been issued. Now, Steve Gorham started the American Congress of Climate Scientists, and Steve Gorham speaks out on this all the time. The thing is, here's the thing that needs to be brought to the forward, which hasn't. The Milankovitch datums back in the 20s, Yugoslavian mathematician figured out that the Earth has a tilt and a wobble in its long-term orbit of the sun. And it just, after 50,000 years, after 10,000 years, we start to go into the end of the interglacial. Now, people are saying, oh, the planet is warming, that's why we're having drought. No, that is how they fool people. If you take a glass of water and sit it there, that water will evaporate. If you had 40,000 gallons in your house, you would get clouds in your house. A planet which has drought is a planet that is cooling. We are not receiving enough sunlight for the sun to evaporate ocean waters and other waters, producing sufficient rainfall and snow to give us the water we need. The planet is cooling, not warming. The worst thing to do is to stop putting CO2 in the air. If we opened your door on a cold day, the first thing you want to do is put on a coat. Well, this planet is cooling, and we need more CO2, because in the next couple of 100 years, the worst effects of the next global ice age, in the next couple of 100 years, the worst effects of the next global ice age will make itself more apparent. And I believe that some evil people would like to limit Earth's population, and that's a whole nother story to take up at some point. But ATR is designed to get information out that doesn't get the light of day, for a better world tomorrow and today. And we're looking into fusion power as well.
That sounds like a great effort, and hopefully our readers and listeners will check that out.
And this is a free report. I will send it to anybody. I'll pay the postage, and you can have this report and evaluate it for yourself.
Sounds like a positive development. I approach global warming from a very different perspective. I use a non-scientific perspective, and being a professor, I get to do this in the classroom. And we don't have blackboards anymore. We have whiteboards, and even whiteboards are starting to go away. But in a classroom with a whiteboard, I'll take a marker and I'll run the whole length of the wall, the entire length from left to right. And at the very far end of it, I'll hold a piece of paper up and I'll say, this piece of paper represents the last 150 years. The rest of the line represents the history of the Earth. And I said, this is how much weather information, 150 years roughly, that is being used to impose these ludicrous anti-development, anti-food, anti-humanity, just about every anti you can think of. and all that. And the students are just amazed. And I said, look, think about it. We know that the dinosaurs roamed the earth. There weren't any glacial caps on the earth at that time. The dinosaurs were found, dinosaur bones have been found in Canada, where clearly it's not warm enough today to support a huge reptile, and they
Right.
wouldn't have had enough food. So the earth must have been in its natural cycle with no humans, would have been there. And that and even in the last 2,000 years, which we track reasonably closely, we've had periods of starvation where a third of the world's population died because there was not enough sunlight. Now, reportedly, that may have been caused by an asteroid hitting the Earth and causing excessive cloud cover. But having a normal balanced temperature in the Earth is frankly a good objective. And I always want to try and clarify that for my students. I am vehemently opposed to pollution. I have seen the ill effects of pollution, but when you classify CO2, carbon dioxide, and I had a sparkling beverage drink last night. I don't drink soda, but it has CO2 in it. You can drink the darn stuff. It's not a pollutant. And when you come to me and you say, I'm going to define that, then you've lost me right at the beginning. But if you say to me, well, we don't want to dump, toxic waste and lead and carcinogens into our lakes and streams, hey, you're talking to the right guy. That works okay for me. But it is kind of interesting that this thing has gotten so into wacko land. Our third question for today is, what's it like to be a conservative in Las Vegas? I know you're in Las Vegas, and I love visiting Las Vegas. It's a great city for entertainment. I'm not a gambler, but I know that it is an extremely union-controlled city, and it's also a state that elected, in my opinion, one of the worst people ever to go to Congress in Harry Reid.
Right. Here's the sad thing. The state Congress and Senate, the governorship and the two senators are all Democrats. And here's how crazy it gets. There's a wonderful woman named Annie Reid, and I can tell this story very quickly. She went to Washington on January 6th, did not take part in any violence. When the violence started, she left. She was exercising her constitutional rights of assembly, right? And when she got back, the Democratic controlled Senate said she had to retire because she was on the grounds, even though she did nothing wrong. It was absolutely outrageous. I'm going to have her on my show. This is the kind of blocked mentality they have. The idea that wherever you stand on the abortion issue, if a baby's heart is beating and you still want to kill that life form and say that it's part of a woman's body when it has its own rights, I cannot conscience that, because that has transcended, well, maybe, at conception, what is it? But, they're fighting against the heartbeat monitor as a way to decide when abortion should stop. And there's many other issues that they fight against and fight for, which they won't even allow you to speak openly against it. And I don't think that's right. So it is tough to be here.
Well, I applaud your consistency and your persistence in working for the good of America. And frankly, in terms of getting this climate change thing straightened out, I think that's the good of the world, because it is anti-development. And having been to other parts of the world, I mean, people need food, they need shelter. And I think we need to help them develop in practical ways. But, if we don't help them, then they end up using peat to burn peat and burn in India. That's a major source of fuel, and burn coal. And I think we've got a lot bigger problems in the rest of the world than we do in the United States. Well, listen, Brian, it has been wonderful having you as a guest this week on Saving America. Tell people the best way to get more information about what you're up to.
You can go to prconnectionsradio.com for my show, We Have the Power. And I don't mind giving my email address. I expect people to conduct themselves with manners and diplomacy. B Gardner, that's Gardner 2323 at yahoo.com. If I have just less than 1 minute, I want to issue a warning. If we follow the guidelines of those people pushing global warming and climate change caused by humans, millions of people eventually will try to eke out a living without water, food, and shelter. And millions will die. And the people who forward this knowing that it was false will someday, when it's brought to justice, will face crimes against humanity.
I agree with you, Brian. So good to have you on our show.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you all for joining us today.